Imagine walking into a mansion party, only to laugh at the woman you once left behind her son by her side, thinking she's still beneath you. But what if I told you she owned the mansion, the company, and the future you desperately needed? What happened next turned a smug millionaire into a speechless wreck in front of everyone. Stay to the end. Don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping real-life dramas you won't believe are true. Began with elegance. The estate was filled with dignitaries, influencers, hedge fund managers, and cultural icons. Naomi wore a midnight blue gown that hugged her grace like royalty, while Jaden, now a poised 9-year-old with his mother's poise and his father's cheekbones, stood at her side like a prince of purpose. As they circulated the room, Naomi caught gasps of admiration and curious whispers, but she kept her power low-key. She wanted to enjoy the evening without titles and posturing. But just as she leaned over to check on Jaden's ginger ale refill, she heard a laugh she hadn't heard in a decade. Ethan's. He stood near the champagne fountain, in a crumpled designer blazer, trying to fit in like old money, but carrying the subtle desperation of someone out of place. He hadn't aged terribly, but he had aged. His cocky smirk hadn't. When he turned and saw Naomi and Jaden across the room, he scoffed. So loud, it drew attention. Did someone let the help bring their kid to this party? He muttered to the man beside him, loud enough to sting. Naomi froze, not from shame, but from sheer disbelief. The man who discarded her like a used napkin now ridiculed her without even recognizing who she was. Jaden, with innocent ears, didn't quite get the insult, but he sensed the tension and held her hand tighter. Naomi exhaled, smiled gently, and told Jaden to enjoy the magician by the pool. She had a conversation to attend to, kicked in like fire. Naomi approached Ethan with the grace of a queen and the calm of a storm preparing to strike. "Oh, Ethan," she said softly, watching confusion dance across his face. "You don't recognize me, do you?" Ethan squinted, blinking as though her face were a math problem he couldn't solve. "Wait, Naomi. Naomi Carter." His laugh returned, nervous this time. "Wow. You clean up well? Teen no law degrees came with mansions. Or was this catered?" She smiled wider. "This mansion, this event, these people, yeah, they're all mine. Welcome to my party, Ethan." The blood drained from his face as the realization set in. The man beside him, now staring awkwardly, excused himself. Ethan cleared his throat. "Look, I didn't mean anything by," but Naomi held up a finger. "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to your son." His lips parted, stunned, then horrified. "My what?" Naomi nodded slowly. "Jaden. He's your son, Ethan. I raised him without asking for a dime, and trust me, he doesn't need your money now. But he does deserve your respect." Moment broke Ethan like glass. People were watching now. Cameras clicked. He reached out, voice trembling. "Naomi, Why didn't you ever?" She cut him off again. "You were too busy laughing, too busy believing I was beneath you. I didn't need your approval then, and I don't now. But maybe now you'll understand why doors keep closing in your face. Karma, Ethan. Sometimes she shows up in heels." The night didn't end there. Word spread. Naomi's story, once whispered in college halls, now echoed in Forbes circles. Ethan spent the rest of the evening in a shadowy corner, nursing a drink, while Jaden, unaware of the full drama, amazed guests with a chess trick Naomi had taught him, pulled back the curtain even further. The next day, the media blew up. Powerhouse attorney hosts gala. Ex publicly embarrassed trended on Twitter. Naomi's assistant begged her to do a PR interview, but she refused. "Success doesn't need explanations," she said. Meanwhile, Ethan sent message after message begging to meet. Not for business, but for a chance to be part of Jaden's life. Naomi didn't reply at first. But then Jaden asked one night, "Mom, who is that man you talked to yesterday?" He looked sad. Naomi sat him down and gave him the truth softened, but not diluted. She told him about Ethan, about mistakes, about strength, and about how life sometimes brings people back, not to hurt us, but to teach them a lesson. Jaden nodded and said, "Can I meet him?" Naomi hesitated, but agreed. Under her supervision, they met at a quiet park days later. Ethan came in a pressed shirt and genuine tears. He knelt and said to Jaden, "I was wrong to not be in your life. I want to learn how to be better if you'll let me." Jaden looked to Naomi, who gave a subtle nod. The journey wouldn't be easy, but it was a beginning. And Naomi knew that healing didn't mean forgetting it, meant growing twisted fate one last time. Months passed. Naomi was invited to keynote at a London investment summit, where her speech about overcoming bias and weaponizing integrity captivated audiences. Guess who was also there? Ethan, this time as a rebranded partner in a modest AI startup funded by a company Naomi had silently invested in through a proxy. He approached her backstage. "You own Technist," he whispered, eyes wide. Naomi shrugged. "Technically, a holding firm I own does." He shook his head, half laughing. "You've been 3 steps ahead this whole time." She looked him in the eye. That's what happens when people underestimate the ones they leave behind. They parted not as enemies, but as people who had walked through fire and emerged changed. Later that evening, Jaden gave a short speech at his school about heroes. "My mom is my hero," he said. "She's strong, smart, and she never gave up, even when people laughed at her." The audience stood in applause. Naomi cried silently in the back. Because this story, her story, had come full circle, not just in revenge, but in redemption. And sometimes that's the most powerful ending of all.